This video is called Our Dad's Garage. He's my dad. Yeah!
The other thing I've been working on this guy is the slide out was stuck. Actually, the motor of the slide out is burnt out. This is the access across the other side of it. So the tool to manually do the slide out was in there, but that tool is missing. And so it turns out it's a 3/8 ratchet drive, and that was pretty easy to do, but the motor was completely locked up. So I had to get underneath here the last couple of days and disassemble the mechanism to get the motor out, and then I was able to take a really strong impact drill and use it to extend the slide out. Okay, welcome under the horse trailer. So the shiny parts are where I've been using vice grips to turn the actuator. That's the bar, goes all the way across to the other side where you can put the hand crank on it. And as that comes in, it comes into a little differential. It's inside there for a little worm gear, and that one looks pretty worn. I may replace that, but it works pretty good. Rotational energy this direction transfers to rotational energy this direction. It goes down these drive shafts to the cogs, which turn, and when they do, they operate those on those teeth, which then extends or retracts the slide out. So what you have to do back here is there's a pin that'll come through here, just like this one, with a little cotter pin in it. Take the cotter pin out, drive that pin out, and then you'll have to, I clamped here with some vice grips and then started tapping, because this shaft is going to slide through the back of that, and it will, when it slides that way through the back of that on this end, then it will slide out of this little receiver back here. So that's how you take this piece out, and then you can drop this whole mechanism and really kind of inspect it, and that's what I did. I put this back up there. It's just kind of temporarily mounted now, but pulled that out. Tell you, when you start to tap it too, I put vice grips here. Let me show you here on both sides, because as you start to move this guy, I didn't want to knock this wheel out from underneath the teeth that it's sitting on. I was kind of afraid it might do that. So I clamped that together so it would not move, and I'm glad I did that, because if you knock this wheel off of these teeth, and the weight of the slide out itself is going to, you'll have to pick it up to get it back on there, I think, which would be a bear. You can see then too that these wheels here, these are in decent shape, but I mean, this is all just nasty. Now that's just gooey crud. It's not like it's really going to stop it from doing anything, but it really needs a good clean. But one concerning thing to me on the slide out are these. I'm not really sure that they do much, but these little slides that go on the inside are cracked. And on that one, there's even a big chunk of it missing, and it was underneath the inside of the slide out. And I wondered if that might have been something that caused it to jam up. I don't know. I got to do some research and figure that piece out. I was pretty suspicious we were going to have problems, because I found extra buttons where someone had already replaced this unit. And then I also found in the cabinet where they had replaced the module, there's the old one. So I wasn't really sure what we were going to get into. And that's the new slide out motor. And before I go in there and start hooking it all up, what I've done is I've just wired it. And I want to make sure that the module inside works and the button works. So we've got it wired up here, and I'm just going to go inside now, hit the button, and see if that motor runs, and then I'll see if I can turn it off and then reverse the direction of the motor with just pushing the button. That way we'll test to make sure all that module works. All right, so back here at the button, so what we should see when we push the button is the red light should come on. That tells you that the room is traveling, or at least the motor is turning. If the motor is turning, the assumption is the room is traveling, but I've got the motor off of the mechanism, so it should turn on. Oh, there it goes, and I hear the motor running, so let's go see which way it's spinning. And now I can see that that motor is turning clockwise, so clockwise. Now what I want to do is go hit the button and see if it'll turn off, and then hit the button again. All right, so here we back are. Hit the button and it turned off. And then when we hit the button again, it should turn back on, and this time it should be spinning counterclockwise. All right, there it goes. And we'll go out here and check. And now it's spinning counterclockwise. So we know at least that the module works, the button works, and the motor works. So all the electrical for this is operating just like it's supposed to. Anytime you've got a button like this, you're gonna have a module that goes with it. And what the button does is it energizes the module, which then sends a signal to the motor and tells the motor which way to turn. So you've got a single button that operates out and in. And what happens with the module is it has a screw on it that you can tighten or loosen, and it will set the amperage at which the motor will shut off. So as soon as the motor feels the slide completely closed, the amps on the motor shoot up, the drag on the motor shoots up, and it overamps and turns off. And then it switches in the module from out direction to an in direction. And then you hit the button again and it will slide all the way in. And as soon as it feels the motor gets a lot of resistance on it when it's all the way in, the motor then amps back up again and it shuts it back off. And I'll show you where to do that. On this one, the module is inside the cabinet, and that's the little module right there. Now, let me turn the light on. So this little screw control right there, let's see if I can get in there real tight. That right there, that's the adjustment. So if your slide out is not going all the way out or all the way in, you tighten that, and as you turn that thing in, it will create a the power adjust is what it's called. It will make it slide further and tighter if your slide out is not closing all the way, because it's amping out a little bit kind of as the rubber touches the side. This will tighten it up just a little bit. You don't want to overdo that because you're driving that motor really hard when you do it that way. But that's how these work. A lot of slide outs are on a two-position button that you just hold. This is a module. That's an expensive little module too. That's a $200 or $300 module, just depending on when you get it. All right, so for right now, I'm not exactly sure what to do about this chunked out piece here. I've just got it sitting in there, just kind of wedged. I do want to operate the slide out, but I'm afraid to do it without this piece in there. So I bought some of this Scotch brand two-sided tape that says Extreme, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue it into place up there and try to just hold it while I operate the slide out in and out until we can figure out what the best solution is for replacing that. And this seemed like the one way to get us there, so we'll just try that. Okay, this is the old motor and this is the new motor. And the way that the old motor attached to the axle here is through these Allen wrenches. It had these set screws in here. Now the new motor doesn't attach that way. It attaches, and apparently you're supposed to drop a pin in or do something here. I don't have that as an option on mine, so I went into my shop and I threaded those openings there. And what I'm going to do is drill a hole that will correspond to the opening here, and it will actually be on both sides here. And then I have threaded that to match a bolt that I have cut with my side angle grinder to the right depth, and then that bolt will slide into the holes that I'm going to put in here, and as it tightens up, it will keep this guy from rotating. So that's the idea, is you have to hold this, actually have to hold the motor onto the frame to keep the motor from rotating when it ends up with some resistance. So I'm going to do that with a series of drill bits. So I've gotten a couple of smaller drill bits right here. So I'll drill a small hole with that drill bit, and then I'll drill a larger hole with that drill bit, and then we'll move to the larger drill bit, and there'll be 2 holes on each side of this, and you'll see that next. And there's our first hole. So we'll make sure that one lines up, and then we'll drill the second. And I've got my nut started in the hole that I just drilled. I'm going to roll it over, and I will mark that location for our second hole. Okay, and there you can see what I did was I cut this bolt and this bolt down very short with the side angle grinder. It's still pretty hot, so I cut that much off of a bolt and cut them short enough so that the spinning piece that's inside here had clearance. So you can tell you've got clearance if you can roll your motor around and it's not interfering with that. So you can see there that that's moving. So now I've got the motor mounted to the frame and it's ready to go back in. And I'll show you one of the other things that I did. I just like to go crazy with the grease. So I've greased everything, and I have packed. This little worm gear housing here has a lid on it, and it didn't look like it had any grease in it to begin with, and maybe it's not supposed to, but I decided it's going to have grease that lives in it. So I filled it full of this lithium grease, and I'll put that lid back on there. And it will live in there for here on in, and it may leak out, but for a good period of time that's going to be very well lubricated, and it sure won't hurt anything. So I thought I'd show you that. Well, okay, so here's the moment of truth. So we've got everything buttoned back up down below, everything's hooked up, and I'm coming up here, I'm going to hit the button, and we're going to see what happens. That comes on. That's pretty perfect. Let's see if it goes out. Well, batteries are kind of weak, but that took it all the way out and all the way back in, and let's see if it got tight against the side so it deployed out all the way. Yeah, looks like it did. Yeah, that's very tight. That's nice. Sweet. Okay, the last thing I did was get back underneath the trailer and take my putty knife and start to clean up those rails where those wheels had the extra grease just built up on them. I cleaned up that the best that I could. And then I took that same lithium grease and I greased those rails down as much as possible. And I operated that slide in and out several times to try to get that thing as lubricated as possible. And I think that lithium grease started making it work a little bit smoother the more it operated. So it looks like it's working pretty good. And I would call this project completed.